Hello, this is the Hydrema 912 articulating dump truck. In this video, we'll review the daily maintenance checks that you'll need to perform to make sure this truck is ready to work. Pay special attention to the safety procedures we discuss so you go home from work today safely. Everything we review will be found in the operator's manual kept in the cab of the truck. So let's get to work. So the first thing we always want to do before we crank the engine is check the oil level. In this truck, the engine's in the rear, so we're going to open this bonnet and check the oil level. So the dipstick is accessible even with the bed down, so you can do this without having to crank the truck engine. Once we've replaced the dipstick and locked it in position, we need to close this bonnet back. In this step, we're going to begin in the battery compartment and check the batteries. So inside the battery compartment, we're going to be looking for connections of the terminals, make sure that those are good and tight and there's no corrosion. This is a new vehicle, so this looks good. Also be aware that this truck has a 24-volt electrical system, so if you need to boost the battery, follow the instructions mounted on this bulkhead when you do that to avoid damaging the electrical components. Also housed in the battery compartment is the windshield washer fluid reservoir, so check to make sure that there's plenty of fluid in this reservoir. Now that the battery compartment checks are complete, we need to engage the battery in the truck. So we'll turn the battery switch to the engaged position. Now the truck is energized so we can start it. One word of caution, after you've operated the truck, if you want to disengage the battery, wait 2 minutes before you do to allow the DEF purge cycle to complete. If you don't do that, you're going to get a check engine light the next time you start the truck. We're now going to check all of the air filters on the truck. They're all mounted on this side of the cab. The cabin air filter is mounted underneath the roof. You only need to take that off and check it once per week. The engine air filter has a pre-filtered dust bowl at the beginning. To access the dust bowl, you unscrew this wing nut on the top, lift off the dust bowl, dump the coarse dirt out. Be sure to re-secure the housing with the wing nut. The second part of the engine air intake is in this housing. We have 2 filter elements in this housing. Make sure they're not occluded with dirt so the engine's getting plenty of air. For our next step, we need to raise the dump bed in the back to gain access to do our maintenance checks. So we'll come back to the cab, crank the truck. Now we're going to raise the dump bed to the full upright position. Make sure that no one's back there and you're safe to do it. Now that we've shut down the engine and the dump bed is raised, we're going to take the key with us as we go back to do our checks in the back. That ensures that no one could enter the cab and crank the engine while we're under that bed. The next step we're going to do is critical to our safety. We're going to need to pin the bed to make sure that it can't come down while we're working in this area. The 2 pins are housed here on the side of the truck. We'll remove both of these pins from their holders, place both of the pins underneath the bed, and secure them in place with their safety clips. Be sure to use both pins to secure this bed, as one is not enough. Now that we've raised and secured the dump bed, we can open the bonnet and do the checks on our engine. So we'll raise the bonnet right here. Several things we want to check under here. Primarily, we're looking for loose hoses or wires. We're going to check the coolant level up there on the engine. The fuel water separators right here. We'll look for leaks on it. Every 50 hours, we're going to need to drain the water off that fuel water separator. And then we'll look for the air intake in the exhaust hoses to make sure that they're in place and look secure. The last of our engine checks is to check the transmission fluid. To do that, you have to have the engine running. So I've started the truck, the engine's running. Now we're going to pull the dipstick and check the transmission fluid level. We've now completed our engine checks under the bonnet, and you'll want to close this bonnet before you put the bed down. After we've closed the bonnet, we need to check the hydraulic fluid level on the sight gauge. With the bed in the fully raised position, the fluid level should show half full. If the bed were fully down, the level would be at the upper blue line. The dump bed on this truck gets a lot of wear and tear, so we want to lubricate this one daily. The parts that we want to lubricate are the tipping cylinders, the hinges for the dump bed, the swivel plate, and the swivel cylinders. While we're here, we also want to inspect the hydraulic lines to make sure that there's no leaks to be found. Also, on a weekly basis, you'll want to lubricate the articulation joint, the articulation cylinders, and the drivetrain on the truck. On a daily basis, we want to check each tire on the truck to look for any tire damage or wear. On a weekly basis, we also want to check the inflation on each tire. Next, we'll open the DEF panel opposite the driver's entry door. In this area, we'll be looking for any loose wires, leaks, or loose cables. We've now completed all the checks that we need to do under the dump bed, so we're going to remove the safety pins, return them to their housing. So we've now completed all of our maintenance checks. We want to return to the cab, crank the truck, and lower the bed. So we'll do that now. Now we've completed our checks, crank the truck. We're going to turn on all the lights, make sure all the lights work on the truck. We've now completed the maintenance steps for this truck. All these are printed in the operator's manual. If you'll make this part of your daily routine, this truck will provide years of reliable service.